Dimitri Cherny was unsuccessful in his 2016 bid to unseat Congressman Mark Sanford in South Carolina's 1st Congressional District. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with Dimitri one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Dimitri,
Quintin,
it is so good to see you, man.
Hey, man. Yeah, really good to see you.
Likewise.
Nice, yeah.
God, I haven't seen you in ages.
Well, I left town at just before Thanksgiving. I went up to see my mother, and I have a sister and a brother that live up in Vermont. And thought I was just going to spend a week, but went up there and discovered my mom's getting old. And I thought it would be best for me to spend quality time with her this year as I can. There was nothing really compelling keeping me down here in Charleston. You know, I finished the campaign. I didn't win, but I think I did a great job. I learned a lot. The experiments I run were successful, but I didn't have a job down here. I didn't have a house down here, so I thought, I'm just stay up there. So we moved my mother into an old folks home, a really nice senior living center, and I cleaned out her apartment, and I found a job. I worked at Lowe's the last 3 months, and it was my first foray into retail. As I tell people, I'm trying to sample every Joe job in America, and to really understand what people are going through, and I really did. And retail was interesting. I enjoyed it. I discovered that, well, I guess as everybody probably knew anyways, I like talking to people.
Sure you do.
And you know, at Lowe's, the job was, I was in the tools and hardware division. The job was, you know, can I help you find something? That was it. And so I'd say that hundreds of times a day and help hundreds of people a day, and that really felt good. And then the other part of the job, of course, if you haven't been in retail, the other part of the job is stocking shelves. And so I'm constantly putting things away, and it kind of appealed to the neatness inside of me. So I enjoyed that too. So it was fun. It was a good time up there.
I gotta stop you because a little birdie told me that you have dots about coming back to run for District 1.
No, not at all.
Really?
No, really. I wonder who told you that. I haven't had any doubts at all. So I've been clear about it since just after the last election. I said, yeah, okay, that was. I ran this experiment, as everybody knows. I raised only $28,000, a fraction of what your typical candidate raises, and yet I did as well or better than any other candidate in the state. Actually, in the 1st Congressional District in history. So I proved that the standard wisdom of raising millions of dollars is the only way to win. Now, I didn't win, of course, but what I did discover was that I didn't lose by any more than and less than people that had previously run in the district here, who had raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and who had knocked on doors and who had made plenty of phone calls. I didn't knock on a single door. Nobody knocked on a single door on behalf of me. No one made a single phone call on behalf of me. So I didn't do anything traditional at all, and yet I did better than any previous candidate. So what does that tell you? Well, that was the experiment that I ran. And what it tells me is money and everything that they tell you about knocking on doors and making phone calls doesn't matter, at least here in South Carolina. Who knows? Maybe other places it does. I don't know. So, but that was the experiment I wanted to run. So next year, I'm going to probably run some other experiments and see. I mean, this will be my 3rd time running next year, and this was the 2nd time, and the first time I did it as a write-in candidate, and that was all an experiment too. So, you know, I enjoyed it. It was fun, and both times it's changed my life for the better. I've met lots of people that are really good friends now, and I'm hoping the same thing will happen again next year too.
Let me take you to some developing news.
Yeah, sure.
Andy Shane of the Post and Courier wrote this headline for thepostandcourier.com just a few minutes ago. He said the following quote, the headline that is, SC won't give voter data to Trump's election fraud commission. Governor McMaster tweets, quote, voters' ballot choices will always be secret. What else would you add to that headline?
Isn't that the basis of secret polling and democracy, that everybody should be able to vote in confidence that it's secret? I mean, there are so many relationships marriages out there where, people may tell their spouse they're voting one way, but once you're in that voting booth, who knows? Right. So I think that's great. I'm pleasantly surprised that McMaster has gone along with that. So.
Describe to me the following one word: healthcare.
You and your
one word. I'm back with that.
So healthcare, as I told you last year after the election, I went out on the road. I did this bike in the low country thing, so 1,000 miles in 80 days, and talked with hundreds of people. And healthcare was the number one concern of everybody. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about being out there on the road was, I'm not just talking to Democrats. Right. I'm not talking just to Republicans. I'm talking to everybody. Sure. And everybody across the board said healthcare was their number one biggest concern. And the general sense that I got was that so many people are living in fear. There's this like low-level undercurrent of fear throughout all Americans that, if I get really sick, it's over. I can't pay for anything. I'm going to have to sell my house or whatever it is. I'm going to go bankrupt, or worse, I'm going to die. Or in many cases, maybe dying would be better. Given the other things that could possibly happen. So I think everybody knows that if we could get the healthcare problem solved, which it isn't a tough problem. What is it? 48 other countries around the world have universal health care. When you get sick, even if we're a tourist and we go to Croatia or something, we're going to be taken care of, no charge. Why can't we do it in America? Money. People are making a ton of money off of the healthcare system the way it is right now. And that is the big problem we have all across America, all the things that are wrong here in America. Why do they want to privatize Social Security, which was another big thing I discovered people didn't want to happen out there? Money. Wall Street can make a ton of money by getting 1% of all the investment from Social Security, and they're going to make 1% off of that. So, that's the way it boils down to here in America. Everything that's wrong in America is because there's money to be made from it. And the people that are making the money from it right now don't want to give that up. They don't want to give up that power. They don't want to give up that control. What I discovered last year, and I think I'm going to discover the same thing again next year, is that there are a lot of us that are waking up to this problem. And this is the whole Trump reaction. When I was out there on the road, I can't tell you how many people came at me because I was a Democrat and wanted to argue, and some guys wanted a fight, wanted to punch me. There was a number of times, and I just had to mellow out and relax and listen to them and let them talk. And then I'd ask them the same question I asked everybody: what one or two things could the federal government do to make your life better? And everybody came back with the same four things. Healthcare was number one. Social Security was number 2 or 3. Veterans benefits and education. Those are the big four that everybody is very concerned about here in America. And those are the big 4 things that are a mess up in Washington because, again, people are making lots of money off of that. But I would talk to people that at the end of a conversation, when they finally calmed down, they'd say, I never talked to a Democrat before. You're a pretty good guy. I'm voting for you and Trump. And I don't know how many people actually did that in the end, but I was seen as, like Trump, a part of the populist movement. I'm someone that's going to Washington to change things, to make things better for the average citizen. So I think probably in 2018, we're going to continue down that road where candidates that are populists, that are not supporting the status quo, the establishment in Washington, that want to make sure that things are working for the vast majority of us. And I'll tell you what, the vast majority of us are not doing well. The vast majority, I think the facts are something like 75% of Americans have less than $3,000 in savings. Wow. I'll tell you, I just started a new job. Not at Lowe's. I'm actually back doing marketing and sales for a high-tech company. The stuff I used to do years ago. It just sort of, it came out of nowhere, and I got this job. Full benefits, paid for by the company, but I still have to pay a $2,600 deductible for all my insurance. It's going to take me weeks now to save up the $2,600 just to keep it in the bank. And I know how tough it is. The past 10 years, I've never had $2,600 in the bank. So that's the situation most Americans are in. So maybe even if you have health insurance, how are you going to pay that big deductible? And some of the deductibles are $3,000, $5,000, you know, for a family. Oh my God. So more and more of us every year are running scared because we think healthcare is the thing that we really need. So that healthcare, to answer your question, in one word.
No, you're fine.
In one word.
You're fine.
You're so funny.
Let me move to offshore drilling.
Yeah.
How would you describe that in one word?
Drill, baby, drill. No, not at all. And this is one of the few areas that Mark and I agree on. Mark Sanford and I agree on. And, you know, he'd have to be a complete moron to not agree on that because there's nobody on the seacoast anywhere on the planet that wants drilling just off of their beach. So that makes complete sense. And no, we need to get off of fossil fuels. My main impetus, and I think I told you this last year, my main impetus for running for Congress was I recognize, because I've kept up on the science, that we have about 10 years to get completely off of fossil fuels, or this world will very quickly become a living hell. And our kids, my grandkids, if I ever have any, your kids, your grandkids, they won't be living in a world like this. Civilization will collapse because we won't be able to grow food, because growing regions are going to change their climate so quickly year to year that you won't be able to grow food anywhere. And what's going to happen is it's going to be a dystopian future, just like all those horrible movies we see where there are rich people that are growing their food hydroponically from nuclear power plants under lights, and then there's going to be the rest of us. And the rest of us is going to be probably 90% of humanity or more. I am not going to leave this planet in that possible condition. So that's why I'm running for Congress. We need to get off of fossil fuels. And at this point, even just having a carbon tax, it's too late for that. What we need to do at this point is legislation that is just going to outlaw fossil fuels. And everybody goes, oh, I'm not going to give up my trucks. You don't have to give up your truck, Bubba. What you can do is really force Exxon and all of the other oil companies to start growing oil from algae and other biosources instead of pulling it out of the ground. And then we still go to the gas station exactly like we always have. We still fill up our trucks, but now the oil that we're burning, the gasoline that we're burning, is carbon neutral, and it just goes back into the ground into the next batch of algae that's coming up next week. So, and that's it. So we don't add any more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, because if we don't stop, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, but the methane bomb is going to blow, and that means all of the permafrost that's up in the higher latitudes is going to release all of the methane from all the rotting materials that have been frozen now for thousands, millions of years. And when that methane gets in the atmosphere, we're not looking at a 2-degree temperature rise. You know, we're not looking at 100 degrees average temperature here in Charleston. We're looking at 120 degrees average summer in Charleston. And I don't know about you, but I think we're all moving to Newfoundland at that point. If Newfoundland's going to let us in and everybody becomes a refugee. The Syrian refugee crisis is nothing compared to what's going to happen.
Okay.
This is why I initially wanted to go to Congress. I mean, I know there are much shorter term and maybe easier things to solve along the way, but that's really my big impetus for going there. So yeah, we got drilling offshore. That's ridiculous. Let's just right now we have to legislate the end of fossil fuels.
Okay.
You have another question?
Yes, sir, indeed. June 21st on Twitter. As you know, first Congressional District, the Democratic candidate, Joe Cunningham, said the following quote: "The Democratic Party needs new leadership right now. If elected, I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Time to move forward and win again." So how do Democrats win again?
Well, everybody knows I was a big Bernie guy. And Nancy Pelosi, I got to agree with Joe on that.
Okay.
There are established Democrats, just like there are established Republicans in Congress in Washington, who, frankly, at this point are part of the problem. And we need to clear those people out. I don't know the details of Nancy Pelosi. I don't know the details of Mitch McConnell. But, you know, if everybody talks about term limits, maybe term limits would be a good thing.
Okay.
It might be, because get too many people concentrated with too much power and have too old ideas where they want to do things gradually. And right now, we are not in a time in civilization where things can be done gradually. We don't have 20 years to wait anymore. We get about 10 years before things have to completely change, or it's all over. We're going to be worse than the Romans were. We're going to be worse than all of the previous civilizations that collapsed. So we don't have time for that. So yeah, I go along with Joe in general on that. We need to get rid of the old guard. We need new leadership in Washington. And I'm hoping I can be one of those people.
And he also said this in his press release, quote, "I have no political debts to pay, and my decision will be made with one and only consideration in mind. What's best for the lives of many neighbors, my neighbors in the Low Country. So what is the best for the lives of the neighbors in the Low Country?"
Again, I'm with Joe on that. In fact, we had coffee this morning, so we met this morning. So good guy. I fully support what he's doing.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to be going head to head, but I think that is democracy. I mean, we have slightly different ideas, different focus areas. You know, I'm 22 years older than him, so I got a lot more different experience and stuff. But yeah, we're pretty much together on those things. And we'll let the voters decide who they actually want to go to Washington to represent us. So, and I forgot exactly what the details of your question were there.
Oh no, just he just said that, quote, "I have no political debts to pay."
Oh, what's the best thing for the people of South Carolina?
Basically.
It's the same things I discovered last year while biking the Low Country. You know, it's everybody wants the same 4 things, and I'll go through them again. Healthcare, education improvements, no privatizing of Social Security, strengthening of Social Security, and better veterans benefits, better support for people that we're throwing in the line of fire overseas for God knows what reason. And I don't even want to get into that. And what all of those things require is we need to get big money out of politics. Now, I said earlier, I proved last year that big money is not required to do as well as anybody else. You can raise millions of dollars like John Ossoff just raised in Georgia and still lose. And I bet we could have had me or somebody like that running over there for $100,000 and done no worse than he had done. It really comes down to who do people want to get to represent them. I mean, whose message, whose vision are they agreeing with? And I think John Ossoff probably just didn't clear that up. Honestly, I didn't follow that whole thing. But getting money out of politics, I think, is the only way we're going to really solve these problems. And that's like Larry Lessig said. It's not the most important problem, but it's the first problem we have to solve. We have to get money out of politics. We have to stop the corruption. And basically, it is legal corruption that's going on, and it has been going on for 40 years in Washington. And that needs to end, so that what we, the people, want, those 4 things, healthcare, education, Social Security, better veterans benefits, here in the Low Country, that's what I heard from everybody, those 4 things have to be changed right away. And we have to get off of fossil fuels immediately. And again, Bubba, that doesn't mean you can't drive your truck. All that means is, when you're going to go to the pump, that oil is going to be made from algae or other biomaterials, not food products, so the price of corn isn't going to go up. And that's the only difference. It's just not adding to the carbon in the atmosphere. We're over 400 parts per million right now. We haven't been at that level for 100 million years, something like that. And when we were last at 400 parts per million, the oceans were 30 feet higher than they are right now. Where are we? Washington Park, what's this, 2 feet above sea level right here? So at this point, you can put the blinders on all you want, but at this point, Charleston will be gone. It's just a matter of time. And this is going to be under at least 20 feet of water, most likely within 100 years. The latest report from James Hansen, the ex-climate director of NASA, who has been the lone voice in the desert for a long time about climate change and been the scariest guy, but he's also been the most right guy out there. His latest report that just came out a couple of days ago, is that they have now figured out why the ice caps are melting faster than anybody has predicted. And every single model that they have is not keeping up with what's actually going on out there. I'm terrified to see what happens at the end of this summer. But they came out with this new report, and he says, with this new data, we can reliably say that the oceans are probably going to rise 10 feet in the next 50 years. Now, it's your lifetime. I hope I'll be alive in 50 years, but
We'll talk to God.
yeah, let's see. I'll be 120 something. So
Yeah, the Holy Bible says that man's supposed to live to be 120, so you're right. That's what the Holy Bible says. We got to trust that as always. But Dimitri Cherny, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
And it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Likewise.
Great to see you.
Yeah, don't be a stranger.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
All right, brother.